Nilesh, do you agree with that? That yes, the government is an employment provider, but right now in our society, government looks like the primary employment provider. There are two issues with that. Number one, how much jobs will government will create? Because as Yatish said, there is a limit to it. Number two is if our entire younger population, the whole aspiration in their life is to be a government servant, what happens to the entrepreneurial skill or spirit of our society?
I want to comment on four things here. Number one, what right does a MLA have to go and say that he's going to give jobs? So the first thing itself shows that our government job creation or the government job process is flawed. Because in my opinion, there are separate agencies that are given task or job of employing government servants. For example, you've got Goa Public Service Commission. That simply shows indirectly that these are people who have got control over these independent organizations, which itself I think is a very dangerous sign to me as a teacher. That comes as a number one factor. So number one is, I don't think any MLA, or I believe that there must be some action taken against all those candidates who go around and say that I'm going to provide you jobs. They need to say, I'm going to create an environment which will create jobs. That's first. Should the government be employing people anymore? The government shouldn't. Advocate Yatish Naik said something really nice about, the policy intent of the ministers. But in the same breath, the same industries minister says that if the GST money does not come to the government, government will not even be able to pay the government servants their salaries. So we are very fast approaching a point where the government does not have enough money to pay the salaries of these people. That's the second point. So therefore, number three, there is a huge amount of surplus that you have in the government departments. I would tend to disagree a bit with a veteran like Advocate Ramakant Khalabji, because I don't believe that the government servants don't do job at all. I think, the kind of stress that the government servants go through is huge. It's tremendous. And there are so many problems therefore I believe that the government should not be in the business. The reason is because they are entangled with so many things. The government becomes a very easy target. So for example, if the government starts getting into a hotel business like the Goa Tourism Development Corporation, I can tell you 100 places from which the government can get cornered and the whole place can get stalled. You have a lot of issues there. Now, what one needs to understand and this is that the government therefore should not be basically looking at employing more people any which ways. Whatever number of people are there, there has to be a proper HR audit that needs to happen. The people need to be trained and retrained so that wherever there is a deficit, that deficit is taken care of by another place where there is surplus. That's the most important thing, basically, because the government does not have enough money today in order to employ more. So I think the government is doing a blasphemous act by getting into employing or trying to show people a carrot of employment, because that's going to be disastrous for Goa. And the fourth point that I want to make here is that when you are looking at government and government trying to create jobs, I think we need to look at the kind of industries that are suitable for Goa. Yatish Bab said something which is very beautiful, and I think it is very important. I also said this to one of the persons who asked me this question from one of the leading national news daily, that the problem is today the education has become pervasive. Unfortunately, I also, as a person from the field or industry of education, want to take the blame that I have not created a dignity of labor. Which simply means that a person, for example, today who becomes an MBA does not really want to look at plumbing or electrician as a business opportunity or a self-entrepreneurship. Not only that, Pramod, I can tell you that there are so many people who come from a jeweler families. And one of the things that I tend to ask them is, why don't you take it to a level like Pune Gadgil? Or why don't you take it to a level of Vaman Haripete? Why do you want to keep it there? Why don't you scale it up? But they don't want to be a part of it. So I think to some extent, even the education sector needs to kind of start pulling their socks up in telling people that the job opportunities do not only lie in the government. So it is important. So the kind of industries that are required to come, I cannot be bringing in a metal manufacturing company in a Goa where, I need unskilled labor. They should be in
tune with the character of the state.
Absolutely.
Respond to both those points. Number one,
First of all,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will
yeah,
respond
yeah.
to Professor Nilesh, where he said that I blame the entire government machinery or government service that they do not work. What I meant to say was, there is a perception has developed that once you are a government servant, you are a government servant till your lifetime, and hardly any action seems to be taken against those who are truant or who do not perform. This is one aspect of it. What I intend to tell you is that the government has moved towards this particular phenomenon in such a way that it appears as if there is no other job available except the government service. So, what could be done? MLAs take advantage of the situation. There was an independent machinery to recruit employees at class 3 and class 4 level. You have, of course, Goa Public Service Commission, which takes care of class 1 and class 2.
And there are
But
staff
this
selection
was
commission.
that commission.
Yeah.
But this recruitment commission, which was there, was wiped away. Government did not adopt that particular procedure. And each minister started declaring that I have so many jobs in my department. And then you have seen what has happened, how for one job, even 1,000 youngsters started applying. So therefore, what happens is, in my opinion, is government talks about maximum governance and minimum government. Some type of slogan of this nature is given. Do they live up to that slogan? Has any government, whether it is BJP, MGP, or Congress, or even at the Delhi government, have they lived up to that particular slogan they have given? They should go back and think of it. Is it outsourcing? Is it impossible to outsource government jobs? It is possible to a certain extent.